1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Welcome to She Rocked It. This is the place where ladies are talking about the ways we're blazing our trails and the things that put the wind in our sails. Welcome to She Rocked It. This is the place where ladies are talking about the ways we're blazing our trails and the things that put the wind in our sails.
Hello and welcome to the She Rocked It podcast. I'm your host, Karen Gross, and I am so excited to introduce the fourth episode of our Real Talk with Women in the Music Industry podcast series. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the first 3 episodes, go ahead and go back because we have some amazing conversations with rockstar women, both on stage and off stage in the industry, who shared so much knowledge, so much honesty, and really so much inspiring wisdom as well that we can all take with us as we rock it, not only in the music industry, but whatever industries that we are all in. So go ahead and take a listen. And today I am thrilled to continue the conversation with Ash Hill and Jenna Gaudio. We had this conversation in Asbury Park, New Jersey, which you may know from Bruce Springsteen, who of course got his start there. And I have to say, I've spent a lot of time in Asbury Park, and there are amazing, creative, courageous women rocking it there now. Ash and Jenna really exemplify that. Ash Hill is the recording studio manager at the Lakehouse Recording Studios, which is an absolutely gorgeous facility. We were so honored to record this conversation at the Lakehouse. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll get to see what a cool space it is. And Ash really represents, unfortunately, among the few women in the recording studio space. We know from the USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative study, the most recent one, that even now, less than 3% of women are producers in the recording studio space. That is just astonishing. It's stunning and it's unacceptable. So we're going to hear from Ash about her experience running a recording studio and how she is rocking it at the Lakehouse, which, by the way, is not only a recording studio, but also an amazing music academy. Additionally, you're going to hear from Jenna Gaudio, who is the co-president of Vidya, an amazing and very innovative company that's really powering independent labels and musicians to get to the next level. They're a one-stop platform for all the tools that indie labels need to level up and scale their music and their business. And she's really rocking it not only as a woman in the music industry, but as a woman in the tech industry. And if you've been following the news, you know that Vidya was just acquired for major bucks. So we're going to get a little behind the scenes insight on that deal and how Jenna played a role in that. Also, a big thanks and shout out to the Lakehouse Recording Studio team for recording both the audio and the video of this episode. It was such a pleasure to work with you. And another special thanks to Professor Rashida Scott-Cruz of Monmouth University, who initially connected me with the Lakehouse. And you'll be hearing a bit from her today as well. And thanks to everyone who was in our studio audience that day. By the way, if you want to be on the inside of everything cool we're doing here at She Rocked It and have exclusive access to being part of our next studio audience, be sure to join our Rockstar network. It's an incredible community, and I know you're going to want to be part of it. Check it out on our website, sherockedit.com. So without further ado, let's dive into episode 4 of Real Talk with Women in the Music Industry. Here we go. Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing here.
Thank you so much for having me. I couldn't be more thrilled to be here with you guys. Thank you for coming into our space. Really, I think that the goal here is to welcome anyone, like you said, of all ages, in and out, all day, every day. And you know, we have this amazing academy that's attached to Monmouth University as well. And we've been able to kind of build all these connections. And then not only that, we have this world-class recording studio that's just kind of like hidden behind the doors. I remember the first time I walked in here and I was like, what dimension did I walk into?
That's how I felt. My jaw dropped when I came here. And sometimes recording studios are like that. They keep it hidden so that, you know, it's kind of like the vibe when you come in, right?
And that definitely, I think it's a great vibe to have. And I think it is important, especially for, you know, those bigger ticket clients that are going to be coming in from major labels and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, we're in the heart of Asbury Park, and I want to make sure that, at least while I have time here, that everyone knows that they're welcome to come here at any point. And there's a way to make it happen for anyone. If we have local bands around here, we have local podcasts, we have people who are doing ebooks, like everything. There's constantly content being created, and it's all being created in this area. And instead of having to, travel out to the city or travel to Philly, like wherever you're going to do those things, you can also get away to the city by the sea, enjoy our town, not have to deal with, the hustle and bustle of those areas that you're used to being in every day, and get the experience that you would normally get in another recording studio like that.
I love it. I'm sold. I'm happy to be here. And you have been the most incredible partner on this event. I cannot thank you and your team enough, Ash. Lakehouse, all I can say is this has been an amazing experience working with you and your team. So highly recommend. Thank you. Appreciate
You're amazing.
that. Mutual admiration. That's what we're all about here at She Rocked It, too.
Absolutely.
This is like women supporting women in real time. So thank you. And speaking of women supporting women, Jenna Gaudio is in the house, the co-president of Vidya. You're going to hear about that. I just want to quickly say that Jenna and I hit it off on a women in music panel that we were part of, hosted by Monmouth University a couple weeks ago. And she shared some of her story that night, and I just said, I really need to hear more. So I'm so happy that Jenna Gaudio is in the house. Jenna, tell us about Vidya and some amazing stuff that you've been up to lately.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time right now. I mean, I've been with the company going on 7 years. So when I first started at Vidya, which is a New Jersey-based company, homegrown, we were about maybe 10, 15 people, and we were trying to offer music video distribution services. So if you made a music video and you wanted it to get pitched to MTV or BET, we would help you package it correctly and submit it, and maybe it would get played. And so my boss, the founder of that company, he saw where the industry was going, and you were hearing this narrative around musicians wanting to be independent. And so we started building technology and tools that would allow artists and labels that were independent to have the resources of the majors and be able to kind of grow their empire. And so that small little startup in New Jersey was able to build out this robust product and capture the attention of many people in the industry, one of them being former Apple Music executive Larry Jackson, who has recently left Apple Music with Apple support and funding to launch a new initiative. And his first order of business was to acquire Vidya. And so now we are, now we are...
first order of business, you heard it.
Yeah, so now we are part of Larry Jackson's Gamma world, and we're off to the races. And, also was, first order of business when they made the big announcement in February. That is when I was elevated from chief operating officer to co-president of Vidya. So
congratulations. Yes, studio audience. We can give her a round of applause for that promotion.
Yeah. So
yes, we're there from the ground floor, and I mean, doesn't get much better than that.
And we have been looking at Asbury space. We've been very active in the local community as well as, the worldwide music community. I also work with the two founders of Jersey Shore Women in Tech, who they started and founded their organization right here in Asbury Park. And before the pandemic, we did in-person meetups in Asbury Park, and it was this growing community of women in technology and business that were trying to look for mentorship and support from both men and women. And that is also, something I've been really passionate about, and joining them and being an executive director in that organization as well.
Jersey Shore Women in Tech, you said. That's so cool. I mean, we're going to talk about the intersection of, entrepreneurship and creativity and tech, and how women are getting more and more a seat at the table of all these different tables, right? Yeah. Let's talk about being an executive.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Because not only are you an executive in the music world, but you're also in the tech world, which is also famously inhospitable.
Well, yeah, very male-dominated, both music and tech. It's the best of both worlds.
It's the best. So tell us, how are you sitting here? How did you make it? How did you get there? What did you do to kind of get in the room and stay in the room?
Sure. I mean, I think that the term, it takes a village is a very real thing when it comes to accomplishing anything. I think when you set out, especially when you're young, we kind of talked about this in the Women in Music at Monmouth University panel, you only know what you can see. And as a young woman, you only have those things that you see in movies. And so a lot of times it's actresses, because that's an obvious, give. There's nurses and teachers and moms and, things like that. And like, that's what you think is available to you, but you don't really have necessarily the understanding that the world is changing. And like the job that you're going to have is probably not even readily available, much less something that's represented by someone that looks like you just now. And that's okay. Right. So that mentality first is the thing that you have to move past. And I went through that early in my career by trying to figure out what it is that I want and going after it, and then realizing it wasn't exactly how I thought it was in my head, and facing challenges that I didn't think I would face. And,
like what? Like, what'd you say?
Well, I kind of talked about how, when I first started in media, I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to be, first I thought I wanted to be an actress because I thought that that's what made sense. But then I realized I wanted to be a storyteller in the way of a writer, an editor, or somebody like that. And I realized there are so many jobs in the media industry that make a film. And so I went on the journey of becoming an, assistant editor and having an intern in the city. But the stability of that job was not there, and you have to wait. And your ability to move up the ranks was very unclear, especially as a young woman in the industry. And so went the other way and found something super stable and got a government job, and that ended up being too stable.
Wow.
But the things that I learned in the government were...
I'm always fascinated by people's paths too.
Yeah.
You go here, then you go far to the other way, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of find somewhere maybe in the middle.
But in the
somewhere.
government, there's a certain culture there. So I worked in a product division and of electronic warfare for the Department of Defense, which seemed really cool, especially when you're young. Wow. And when I worked with a lot of, lieutenant colonels and people in the military. And so when I walked into an executive room, the men stood up and they stayed standing up until I sat down. And I was like, this is delightful. And, when I realized that the government was a little too slow to me, I was like, I need to get back into media. I want to do something more fast paced. I love technology. And so I started looking specifically for tech startups in New Jersey. And I had to convince the first founder that I worked for, I had to go in there and convince him that I am not my resume and that a government worker is the opposite of what a tech startup founder actually wants, but I actually am what he needs. And, took a huge pay cut, begged him to take a risk and take all those applications and get rid of them and just give me a shot. He really put me through the ringer, but he gave me a shot. And, I was very surprised when the men not only did not stand for me, but I had to really fight for them to even see me and, understand my value. And that was something that was going to always perpetuate, because it's not like a malicious thing, but it's just like you don't look the way that they think you're going to be valuable. And you're not, especially when you're a new person. If you're new in anything, they don't know you. They don't know what you bring to the table. So it's on you to educate them on how you're going to bring things to the table. So I think what happened there was, someone saw something in me and took a chance on me. And so I owe a lot to that first foot, letting me have that foot in the door, and then coaching me, giving me honest feedback, and being, invested in my growth, not just in patting me on the head and placating me as a young woman at a tech startup and tokenizing me, but telling me where my weaknesses were, where my strengths were, and what I needed to do to take that next step. Right up to the point where we successfully grew that company got acquired. And when he moved on to do his next venture, he said, it's time for you to move on to your next venture, and wouldn't let me stay stagnant. And actually at that job, I met my current boss, who, founded this new company, was trying to found it at that time. But I took a fancy job in New York City because I could, at that point I had, a proven track record, but he kept tabs on me. And so about a year later, the founder's like, please just come, meet my team, see what I've done. I think you could really help me. And, I did. And 6 years later, I guess we built a, beautiful company, got acquired, and, again, proven track record. And now I've been able to do the same thing that those men have done for me, is I mentor and coach both men and women, but like there are several women that I work with that are rising stars, decision makers, leaders in product, in marketing, in music. And it is a joy to work with them as a collaborator, but also to know that that knowledge transfer is the key to changing those numbers that you talked about.
Wow. So many moments when I wanted to get up and either scream or do a happy dance, both at the same time. It's so interesting. And we talk at She Rocked It a lot about raising your voice. And sometimes I want to give you credit too, because yes, you were mentored and someone took a shot, but you fought for that job. You raised your voice and you didn't let it go. So lesson number one, we always say, is we do have to advocate for ourselves, right? And raise our voices. So kudos to you.
And endurance. I got to tell you, endurance. Because there was definitely, and both of the founders that I've worked for will tell you this, and they both laugh about it together sometimes, is like, there were moments where like, I would just be, hysterical, crying, and just like not really sure what my next step was. But I think they, would give me a piece of advice, leave it with me, in 24 hours, I would come back ready. And so I think a lot of women exit their growth path because they have that moment and they don't have the energy or the desire or the clarity in how to do that. And although the tenacity is the word that they've used previously about me, there have been moments where I did question everything, but it just took I'm going to leave you with this and then I'm going to let you decide. And I made the choice to show up in those opportunities that they helped me have in front of me.
Kudos again. And here you are. And Ash, you are also in an environment, I would say, that's predominantly men in the studio environment. Having been in studios myself, I don't really remember ever in my life working with a woman producer in any studio environment. We saw the numbers are very small. And here you are, the head of an awesome recording studio, which is so exciting. Tell us about your journey here, how long you've been here, how you got here, and how it's going for you.
Okay, so
yeah,
this is it's a very unconventional journey and something that, I never ever thought that I would be the studio manager of Lakehouse Recording Studios. Like, never in my life did I say that's where I was going to end up. And so, most of my background stemmed from working in retail for years. I, came up out of that way and was actually very built up by a lot of men, which felt really good because it's very rare to see. And I do give kudos to all of those people that supported me and, pushed me to the next level that I could get to. And so I worked my way up into retail, into higher ranking roles for years. And as time went on, I slowly realized that retail kind of started to become this dying field, and that it's not really going to be what it's going to be anymore because we have the internet and things like that. So I started to kind of, figure out what kind of paths I could go on. And it led me to working in town in Asbury Park at a store for a year and a half while I was just kind of, doing my thing, working with two badass women that are still there today. Shout out to Casey and Abby. If anyone ever wants to go to Rebel Supply Co. in Asbury Park, it's the best.
Oh yeah, that's a great store.
Seriously. And
Rebel Supply, shout out.
Seriously, that's another like She Rocked It moment. Those are two females that are constantly moving the needle in this town specifically, doing everything they can for this entire city. And so coming into Lakehouse, I've only been here for around 6 months now. And I'm the only female that works back here. And so a lot of people, I think, would be, a little taken back to take on a role like that because you're having to manage a full team of men, and that looks very intimidating a lot of the time. I definitely feel like I got the chops from working at Zoomies back in the day.
Me too.
Oh my God, get out of here.
Wait, what is Zoomies? Oh no, this is...
Well, you know what PacSun is?
Yes.
So PacSun was the first store I worked at, and then Zoomies wanted to open up across the hall and asked me to come work for them, and I worked for both for a while.
Shout out Zoomies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where leaders are made.
Wow. Really, really underpaid store managers.
Zoomies, the hidden secret of
man.
all the rock stars.
Oh man, that's so funny.
Yeah.
It's such a small world, but like it's a very man's world there because it's all action sports based. And that community has grown so much when it comes to women. Like I still constantly watch skateboarding and snowboarding videos on
like
YouTube
the X Games and stuff like that.
And it's
right.
like,
okay.
It's amazing to see that, but it took a long time to get to that. I used to, build skateboards and I had it down to a science. I would do it in like 8 minutes flat. I'd do the entire skateboard, and 9 times out of 10, I would have to convince a dude to let me do it because they would be like, "Oh, you're a girl, you can't do it." And I'd be like, "Really? Like, why don't you watch me do it? And then they'd be like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that. But it's just little things like that where like, you weren't always believed in. But I had, my district managers and other store managers that I worked with in the past, like really building me up and giving me the confidence to be able to lead a team of people and really dive into what it means to not only lead them, but guide them to where they need to go and what they need to do to get themselves to the next level of what they want their career path to be or what they want their outside life to look like. And those have always been really important values that I've taken into every role that I've been into. And so coming here, it is a man's world still. The CEO, the owner, John Liedersdorf, is a man. Our vice president is a man, Juan O'Grady. And they're both two very supportive men that constantly spend every day checking in to be like, hey, I just want you to know that you're killing it back here. And I have such a great team of engineers behind me that are all so supportive. And we deal with characters every single day. We deal with creative types.
Yeah.
That
was so diplomatic.
That looks so different every day. Yeah. I always give like little examples of like when some typical old school guy comes in and makes the comment about like, oh, your dress looks really nice today. Like little things like that. I walk into a room with my engineers and they're like, I'm so sorry that guy said that. Like, if you want us to kick him out, we can totally do that. Like, so it feels real. I feel really supported by these people, and I never expected to coming in here. I was super intimidated, and at the end of the day, I think we've been able to create this dynamic that can hopefully bring more women into this space. We have yet to have a female producer in here, and that's sad. That's something that like breaks my heart to hear. But also there's not very many female producers around here. And so anyone that's in the music industry around here that's, not only looking to create on their own, but is wanting to get to that next step and that next level, like I'm here. Like, I would love to chat with you. I would love to figure out how we can make that happen for you. I think that not only women, but, trans, people from the LGBTQ community, anybody that's looking to take on these roles in our industry that, may have felt like they couldn't do that because of the stigma, we don't have it here. It doesn't exist in Lakehouse. I won't let it. So
it's
that's
so exciting and refreshing to hear the space that you're creating here. It's awesome. Actually, a little bit later on, we're going to have a special guest. I'll give a little scoop of it. Professor Rashida Scott-Cruz is in the house from Monmouth University. She's going to give us a little window of the generation coming up, who hopefully will be filling those chairs in the studio, hopefully more women in those roles that you can hire and bring in.
Absolutely.
So we'll hopefully hear some more about that in a moment. But I want to ask you both, you're both women in leadership, right? And you've hung in there and you've raised your voices so that you could fill these leadership roles. I'm curious if we could dig into that a little bit, because I feel we're talking about why are women not decision makers as much in executives or running studios. What words of advice might you give to a woman who's having that almost imposter syndrome of like, who am I to even apply to run this recording studio? Who am I to, run a tech and music company? What was the nugget of confidence or the mantra, or what got you out of bed to say, I can actually do this, and maybe impart some of that wisdom on others, myself included? Who am I to run a platform like this, to create a platform like this, to ask to record at the Lakehouse? I mean, we all get fearful to ask for these things that we want. What can we learn from you both on that?
I think it's all about taking the chances. When I took on, interviewing for this role specifically, it was because a friend of mine has been really close with our head producer for years, and she texted me one day and was like, you're such a confident person. You know how to lead a team. I think this role would be great for you. I looked at my phone for a minute and I was like, I don't know. This is a totally new world I've never been in before. And she was like, just take the interview. You never know what can happen. And I was like, yeah, I don't really have anything to lose. And so I constantly try to take those chances. I think it takes a whole lot out of you to go out of your way to be able to do those things. But the only way that we're ever going to, spearhead something or, move past any of these stigmas is if we just go out there and take those chances.
And I mean, I totally agree with that. And I love that you're like, I'm confident, because I think that represents a portion of women that are confident and like don't take the risk. I was on the opposite side of things, where I was taking risks all the time, and I was very much lacking in the confidence. And I was surrounded by men that just, I don't know if they're just homegrown and they just have this confidence naturally, or like someone like told them how to do it. But it got to a certain point where like I really wanted, I have a growth mindset. Like I really just want to keep growing and learning and helping other people. And the thing that was preventing me was myself. And it got to a point where, my boss said to me, he's like, if you want to get to the next step, like you have got to be more confident, because you can. And, there's all these glass windows in the office. And he's like, all these people are looking to you. And if you are not confident in what you're doing, they're not going to be confident in what they're doing. And so, essentially that is on you to figure out. And so again, that was one of those moments that I like turned around and like was like, well, I'm not, and then went home and like felt bad about it, and then came back, and was like, okay, we're going to fix this problem. So, I really intentionally like thought about that and how that is impacted. So one, I would say you have to like want it, want it more than the imposter syndrome eats at you. We just got back from Nashville for the Music Biz conference, and my team out there were amazing. They did panels, we hosted a networking event, and at the end of the week, I was up for an award that I was up for last year and lost last year, and came back, and everyone was like, this is going to be amazing. And, I lost that award again, and in the moment, it was like, in my head, I was just like, am I not the leader that they deserve? Like, am I fraudulent? All these things. And, I went out with them afterwards, and, they were just like, it was exciting for us all just to see you be nominated. It was like a great week for us all to be here. And like, we did this together as a team. And it was just like to have those mirrors in your life that remind you of like what actually matters. And it's not, what you think matters in your head, and just getting over your own stuff. I think that is like a really important piece of it. I also think Michelle Obama, I think, said it a good number of years ago at this point, when someone asked her, like, oh, how are you so confident? As if, like, who are you to be as confident as you are? Mm-hmm. And she said something like, I would walk into these rooms of these powerful men that are in charge of the United States of America, and I'd be, really? These guys? And so, I admire and respect the men and people that I partner with, but there are a lot of rooms that I have walked into in my lifetime that I've been like, this is the person that's in charge, like, and so I think that starts to help.
I feel you on that.
Yeah. You're like I could do that. I could do that blindfolded, and like that, like kick in the pants makes you realize that there are too many women out there counting themselves out, and we just don't even know it because we're not in the rooms with those people that were like, these are the ones in charge. Like,
and everyone's figuring it out all the time too. Like we think everyone's got it figured out, but like, whoop, we become a real adult, and you're like, wait a minute, everyone's learning as they're going.
Absolutely,
I think women are kind of
100%.
scared sometimes of that reality of like, you actually can figure it out as you go. You don't have to like have
you don't need a tenure.
The resume that's done run 5 recording studios. You're going to learn it because you have that confidence.
I think it goes back to taking the risk and having accountability, because you can do it, but you have to do it, and you have to figure it out. And if you don't know how, you have to figure it out. And if you don't figure it out, that's on you.
Yeah. I mean, I think also like coming into this space, I had zero idea what to expect. And being able to run this business like it's my own, and it is my, like, it feels that way. I feel like this is my home, and I have to take care of my home, and I have to take care of my people, and I have to grow it. And so, because of that, any idea that I have, I'm putting it out there. Like, we talked about Lakehouse Live behind the scenes, and it's a very, very small early stage of it, but being able to get all these people in the room, find the talent, get our video team in here, get the engineer in here. It takes a lot, but it's so rewarding. We get to, feature these artists and make them feel good and make sure they're getting the content they need to get out there. And no one's walked into this space before and said, we can do something like that.
I love that. And Lakehouse Live, if you haven't tuned in, is a great series that Ash hosts. She's a fantastic host and showcases some of the amazing artists that are coming in and making music in the space. And that's a great segue, actually, because I want to talk about the business of music and that intersection of music and art and commerce and business. And you both are standing at that intersection. It's such an interesting time for the industry. Tell us a little bit about what you see in terms of that intersection between.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I think, you're seeing artists at the top know is that community and commerce go hand in hand. So, and that's true of any business. That's true of a podcast. That's true of, anything that you're doing. Yeah. If you have followers, fans, community, which is also clients, those people are going to show up for you and they're going to convert to any kind of monetization flows that you might have. They're going to listen to your music. They're going to buy your merch. They're going to get all 4 vinyls that turn into a clock. And, just because you made them a limited edition, and that is smart business. That's smart, commerce. And so I think that is where the creative industry is going. And essentially, Gamma coming into the mix is essentially of the same mindset that they are working with bigger names that have bigger opportunities, and how can they collaborate as co-owners of building, an empire around an artist is really the future of everything. And we're seeing that already. We're seeing that, through the artists that we all follow today. And so I think that's where it's going. I also think the next generation is set up for this. Talking to the students at Monmouth, talking to the students that were at Music Biz as well, like they are clear, they have more of a technical acumen. They understand social media. They understand community. And I think that they aren't lost in what they want to do. I think they feel like they are more guided in what is out there for them and what they want. And I think that's going to help accelerate them. And I think that we, all are starting to dissolve and evolve that layer of, we're trying to forge a path that doesn't exist anymore. There are women that are coming up that are seeing professors and podcasters and producers and executives that are doing it. So obviously you can do it, and that wasn't the case for our layer, right? It wasn't obvious to us. But I'm seeing them make those moves and have that mentality that of course I'm going to succeed. And I think that's really going to accelerate, fixing the problems that we have right now.
I love that optimism. And I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, please. How though, I'm curious, now that you've been acquired and everything, how do you not, recreate? How do you recreate a problematic industry when you have, a big, let's say, backer? How are you reinventing the paradigm now that, you're the co-president so that we don't fall into the same mistakes?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is what can you control? And obviously you can't control everything. For my career in particular, I left out the gory details. There were a few rooms that I walked into where I was not welcome, I was not heard, I was sidelined, and I left those rooms very quickly, either by choice or, by need of the situation. And that's going to happen. But the faster that you get out of the wrong place, the sooner you can get into the right place. And so, for instance, the right place was at Vidya, which was a 10-person company that no one could say the name correctly.
Am I saying it correctly?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, good.
You are. But no one in at the time, no one would have said that was a power move that was going to change me, the team, the company, the industry. No one would have said that. But if you fast forward 7 years from when I joined this small startup that nobody knew what we did or how to say our name, I am walking down the street and people are congratulating me on what we've done for the community, for the industry, flying to Nashville and, being up for the most highly sought after award at the conference. And all of that is because we scaled an idea and a movement and an understanding to build a more equitable industry, and we did that together. And so all of the people that have joined, we're now a 100-person company. So you can change things. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't, you don't walk into a room and be like, oh, okay, things are different now. But even at the conference that I was at, I was listening to the panels, and one of them, many of them being video panels even, there were other people, women, up there speaking on these panels saying, I look around the room and I see more women and people of color at this conference than ever before. And previously companies didn't send women and they didn't send people of color, but we're on this stage right now and we are visible and we are decision makers. And wasn't me saying it, my rose tinted sunglasses came off. It wasn't me. It was other women, leaders and people of color that were up there and both double minorities up there saying, we see the difference, let's keep going. And so I have to believe that if you keep that mentality that it's happening and it's possible, but you have to be intentional about it, I think you have to be hopeful and optimistic, because otherwise, what's the alternative? The alternative is you don't go into those rooms, you don't go to that conference, and you just plateau wherever you are and like say we did our best and whatever. So the alternative is just not acceptable to me.
Paralysis.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And to talk about from the artist perspective, Ash, I think in our earlier call, as we were anticipating this conversation, you said, for let's say the typical musician who comes into your doors may or may not know how to be an entrepreneur, may not know how to market their music, may be coming here on their own dime. And, you have a great thing, singles night, right? Where
Singles club. Yeah.
Singles club. Oh, singles night. Sorry. That's where my mind went. Singles club. Sorry. Singles club. It's so cool where you can have a track done. Couple hours is a great idea. I love that. I foot the bill of my own recordings for a long time. And then it was like, what do I do? And I would pitching them to radio station. I've done it and it's a totally different landscape now. It's a totally different landscape in terms of venues, in terms of getting your music distributed, in terms of tapping into social media. You guys are at the hub of all these conversations. So what would you say though to a creative now in terms of recommendations of what to do? You have a song, you've got a creative passion, you want to be a working musician. What are some of the things that you're sharing with these folks?
The first thing that I would absolutely say is that you need to not expect a timeline to go the way that it's planned.
Such good advice.
I would say, 95% of the people that come in here to record, they want to release something within 2 months of recording it. And I am like, I am sorry, honey, but that is not it's possible we make it happen for people because they want it. But I don't think that there needs to be this giant rush on that process. I think you need to trust the creative process and listen back to the music that you're making. A lot of people spend time being like, okay, I need to get this done. I want this to be released in, 2 months on this date, yada, yada, whatever it is. And they might have been working on it for years. And that's totally understandable. You're gunning to get that thing out there. But you've also spent so much money and time on recording these things. So listen back to it. See, have these revision notes for the mixes that you're going to be doing. Have these notes for the mastering that's going to be taking place. Spend a couple weeks, take that time and really make sure that what you're putting out into the world is what you actually want. Because I do think that people at the end of the day will sometimes look back at it and be like, oh, that could have been done better in this way. And there is a limit to what you can do. And sometimes people have to hang the towel up and say, I'm done. This song's done. We're doing it. We're putting this album out. But I do think that some people are so gung-ho and should be spending more time on that. And then in terms of, actually releasing their music and promoting themselves and being entrepreneurs, really, I think it's get your chops up with social media. You have no choice. It's the biggest thing. And
it's a way to connect with community.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? To cultivate community.
Even when we look at things from a business, we say, how many followers do you have? If you have something to say, if you write a book, or if you put out an album, or if you launch a business, is anyone gonna show up for you? Is anyone gonna buy
currency?
It? Yeah, absolutely. It's currency. So
it's powerful. Wow, this has been such an exciting conversation. There's so many pieces to this puzzle too, as an artist, as a woman in leadership, where we go from here. So I just want to thank you both so much again. Before I wind down this conversation, I want to take the opportunity to invite a very special guest to share a few words with us. And I have to credit Professor Rashida Scott-Cruz with really making this happen, that She Rocked It could be in the Lakehouse space. Rashida invited me to speak to Monmouth University students. They have a satellite office here at the Lakehouse. We had a great time. I got to speak to her wonderful group of students. She is just an amazing professor, mentoring the next generation of students entering the music business. She also kindly hosted me. I was a panelist for a Women in Music panel several weeks ago, where I mentioned I met Jenna Gaudio. So this is really how it works. This is the network. We call it the Rockstar Network of women connecting with women. And then I got to meet Ash, also, I believe, through Rashida, who connected the dots to make this possible today. So just give it up for Rashida Scott-Cruz. such a special connector, such a special lady in my life. We've become fast friends, and she's a true rock star. So all that to say, I would love to hear your thoughts as a professor, as a member of this community, as someone who's worked in the industry. I know you're really interested in this intersection of music and entrepreneurship. Tell us what you're seeing from this next generation of students. Give us maybe a glimpse, a bit of hope. What are you seeing from this next generation as they're entering the industry? And are they savvy to all these things that Ash and Jenna are advising them to do?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to you as well for continuing to champion the need to bring about awareness with regard to women in music. So we are so grateful for that.
And I just want to say that's who you are too. You're such a great connector, and how you graciously give credit and acknowledge folks. That is just a wonderful thing that you do. So thank you.
Thank you very much. No, I think entrepreneurship is the way that I want to see our students move. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that I always explain to them is, even though you don't know what you want to do right now, at least have that as a thought, in the back of your mind, because you'll never become a millionaire working for anybody else. And, you get to determine what your schedule looks like and what that means with regard to mental health and balancing your overall lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So I really tell them to take that to heart and really just redefine and know what they want to do, because they'll get there a lot faster knowing what they want to do instead of letting somebody decide that for them.
What are you seeing in terms of even just like the ratio of students? Are more women like entering the program? Tell us about what you're seeing from the ground up.
So I'm very excited because there are more women now enrolled in the music industry program, even at Monmouth. And we're a small program. There's a lot of students that are dual major. So they wear a lot of different hats, behind the scenes. And that's something that I'm really, proud to see develop as the students realize that their network is their net worth. And it's really starting at our university.
Ooh, say that again?
Their network, is becoming their net worth. It's really the extension of people that they know that are going to become the collaborators that they'll get to work with in different aspects of the music industry. It's not just the music and performance side. It's the behind the scenes side. It's the doing the business plans, doing the marketing, knowing how to scale a business, knowing how to do the finances, making sure, they know data analytics, understanding coding. I've been telling them to learn to code. I said, I don't care which software or which program you decide, find something that you like to do and learn to code, because that's how you solve problems. And that's how women are also realizing, even though that's been male dominated for a long time, realize that they're the ones who help solve those problems. You're reverse engineering, you're coming up with creative solutions, you're finding the gaps and the areas that need improvement, and you're basically creating a demand for it. And that's what I applaud and love about what Jenna did at Vidya, because again, while there are so many other companies out there, if you could do it better, then that definitely makes you, valuable. You're adding value to this business.
I love it. Absolutely. And just to put the spotlight on you for a minute, give us a bit of wisdom. We talked before about women in leadership, and I would consider being a professor, being in front of a classroom, definitely a leadership role. What gave you the confidence to, because we've talked about this, over coffee,
right?
How you were the first woman of color in that program. What gave you the confidence to enter that space?
I would say, for me, it's really just going out and networking, not just sitting in my room and waiting for somebody to come to me. I started out, ironically, as a DJ. I DJ'd at clubs in Asbury Park that no longer exist. Like before Porta was Porta, and before the Watermark is the Watermark, and where Over the Moon is, I've DJ'd there. So those were some of the ways in which I grew my confidence, just being out there and just understanding. And then it went from there to sound for film and film for television and music supervision, and, just working with different producers and different, people in the behind the scenes part. And even before that, I'm a mom. I'm a grandma now. So, I have children, and, I served on the Board of Education at the school district where I graduated from. And I was terrified to speak in front of people. I had to go to Toastmasters, and it really just helped you with getting up and speaking in front of an audience impromptu, giving you some talk points, just helping you get out of that comfort zone and not just saying and ah all the time or talking with your hands like I am right now. But that was one of the ways that I started. And then I ran for the Board of Education and was elected. And that really helped me to become more of a speaker and an advocate for others and my children as well.
I love that. I feel like this is such almost like a perfect full circle moment as we're talking about, raising your voice, putting yourself in that room and just going for it, taking that chance, and like the world's a better place for it. So Rashida, thank you so much for making my world so much better and connecting me with such an amazing network. I love that. Your network is your net worth.
It is.
I'm going to not forget that. I never heard that, and that's so right, and it ties in with what Jenna was saying about community and all the things. So let's give it up for Rashida. We're going to have Ash and Jenna come back up for one last moment.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much to Professor Rashida Scott-Cruz. I should mention that if you want to hear more from Rashida, she is featured in episode 2 of this series, Real Talk with Women in the Music Industry, where we featured her and other women who are rocking it across different facets of the industry. So don't miss her in the spotlight on episode 2, along with some other rock stars. And now, before we finish this interview, which has been so rewarding, I feel like my mind is turning with all the incredible things that we discussed. Thank you all so much. And now, without further ado, I always end with my final question of what is your one tip to rock it? These women are undoubtedly rocking it. I want to know if they have one final tip that they can share with us. Jenna, you go first. What's your one tip to rock it?
I tell all young women that your communication and your visibility is the most important thing that you can be thinking about, and no one is going to do that for you. So figure out how you can, get yourself in front of people often and position yourself in the way that you want to be moving towards. I mean, you can't expect people to just see you when you walk into a room and know your value and know what you're capable of. So, I see many ways that you can do this. I see young women starting to share their growth journey on LinkedIn of like when they take meetings and, what they're learning and what they're experiencing themselves, so that other people maybe in the same cohort as them can learn from that. But also senior leaders can see this person is serious and taking action and making progress. So that's both communication and visibility. I mean, people start a blog, people, again, it goes back to building a community, like figure out what you want, tell people your plans, and then show progress and keep yourself visible along the way. And people will see it. And all it takes is one right person to open up a door and walk through it. But you got to do that for yourself.
I love that. As a communications person, I'm obsessed with that with that tip. I couldn't agree more, and I love that. And raise your voice. Don't be afraid to share your voice. I love that. Thank you so much for that, Jenna.
Of course.
Ash, what's your one tip to rock it?
First off, thank you. That was absolutely amazing. I just loved it. And I guess my tip is really to rally around the community that you have. I think it's something that I have always taken my chance with. I've always supported the people around me, whether that's sharing something that they posted or going to that event that they are working so hard to be doing, or listening to that song that they just put out. Support each other, because if we don't support each other, there is no community. There is no way of spreading the word. And so, I think put anything aside that, creates some kind of internet persona that's like so important to keep up with. And I think we see that all the time, that a lot of our friends and our family and people around us are, they don't want to share things because they want to maintain a privacy. And I totally understand that. But if you can, share those things that your friends are doing. Share those things that anyone in your life is doing that you remotely support. It's the only way that it's going to get out there. So that's really, really important. And I think it doesn't get told enough. And yeah, I also think raising your voice is so important. And you saying that, absolutely amazing. I couldn't agree with it more. And it's the reason that I got to where I am today. Absolutely. Not being afraid to take those chances, and not being afraid to walk into a room and ask for what I want and what I need. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask for what you need.
Absolutely. Well, raising your voice, building community, Rocking it, for sure. Thank you so much. And thank you to the amazing studio audience for joining us here at the Lakehouse Recording Studios. Give yourself a round of applause.
Thanks so much for tuning into the She Rocked It podcast. I'm your host, Karen Gross. This episode has been edited by Aaron Phelan and produced by Tori Marchioni, with audio engineering by Tung Chen. The She Rocked It theme song is by Karen Gross and Tim Motzer. Visit our Instagram page at She Rocked It to join the conversation, and visit our website, sherockedit.com, to learn about how you can join our Rockstar Network membership community, support our work, and attend our live events and podcast tapings. Hope to see you on the inside.